Hey, this is Bryan.
And Shelby.
And you're listening to the Hyperspace
PodBlast. Aren't you a little short for a podcast?
Huh? Welcome in, everyone, to Hyperspace PodBlast, number 18. What's it mean to be a Jedi?
What's it mean? What's it mean?
I don't know. Shelby, what do you think it means?
Oh, dear. Well, I think that there's a combination of things that need to happen for someone to be considered a Jedi, to me. And I think that you have to have the Force sensitivity, you also need to have the ability to use it, and then also combine that with Jedi teaching/training.
Mm-hmm.
Quote-unquote official Jedi training.
Right. You can't just, YouTube Jedi videos and call yourself a
Holocron.
Jedi. Yeah.
I holocroned all these Jedi videos and...
Say someone does find a holocron.
I think that would be... I think that would be sufficient because it's an official teaching.
That's good enough to call yourself a Jedi?
If you I feel like you could be able to almost speak to some of those people through the Force if you were, really into it. I think you could...
If I look up a bunch of martial arts videos on YouTube, can I call myself a karate master?
Well, there's no Force.
Right, but I wouldn't call myself a karate master.
No.
Just because I looked up some... I don't think that works. I think you have to have actual training, from my personal opinion.
Well, couldn't you have training from people speaking to you through the Force? Once you, kind of got yourself started, and you connected yourself up, and then these Force ghosts showed up, and they were like, hey, this is how you become a Jedi.
Okay, yeah. I would be okay with that. And I guess that can't happen via my karate metaphor.
Exactly.
So
it's not like some karate master is going to appear in our living
room.
That
would be amazing.
I mean, that would be kind of cool.
Trying some karate videos just to see. Just in case. That would be rad.
What about you, Bryan? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna need some kind of actual training, because so often if you can use the Force, you're just kind of lumped into that, oh, you're a Jedi category. You know what I mean? It's kind of like one of those generalizations, like every tissue is a Kleenex type thing.
A copy is a Xerox.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not that way, I don't think. And I think even in canon, there's examples of this, people giving the name Jedi. I guess part of the problem is all in the nomenclature, which is...
Well, you don't see that with the Sith, though. I mean, I think that most people accept someone who is a dark side user doesn't make them a Sith. And I think that's just because of the rule of two that they hear all the time. So It's like, oh, they're not actually a Sith because there's only two.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need that constraint to deem someone a Jedi or not if they're using the light side of the Force.
Yeah, that's part of the whole thing there, is the Sith have a very hard and fast rule. Asajj Ventress, never a Sith.
The Inquisitors?
The Inquisitors are not Sith. Kylo Ren is not Sith.
I don't think so.
Because Snoke's not Sith, unless the whole Plagueis thing. But that's a whole different can of worms we're not going to open here today. Anyway, yeah, I think that is part of the issue. We have the generic idea of how you became a Jedi in the Republic, right?
Yeah,
but then
that was very structured.
Yeah, extremely. And then you have Luke, who is a Jedi, and that's a whole different thing. But I consider Luke a Jedi for sure.
I was going to say, you might make some people pretty angry if you assert that Luke is not a Jedi.
We'll get into that later.
Luke is fuzzy. I mean, his way to becoming a Jedi.
He's fuzzy if you take into account the old rules.
But maybe they weren't always like that.
Well, absolutely. I think not. I think the whole Jedi had to have had trials and tribulations. I assumed that, Jedi started as probably one little tiny sect, and all over there were a whole bunch of different ones, Guardians of the Wills and whatever. And they started getting together, and they just started like-minded things grouped together, and then for whatever reason, the nomenclature of Jedi stuck.
Yeah, and I think there probably are some core concepts that you must kind of accept to be a Jedi.
Oh, right,
I can subscribe to that. I think that there's some more... Being very passive is something that makes you a Jedi. If you're a Force user using the light side, you have to be very passive. It's very, they're not going after people. They're letting conflict come to them.
Right, yeah, that's sort of the last...
Which, in a way, the Jedi Order within the Republic was almost getting very close to violating that.
Well, I think they had lost their way for sure when they got involved with being generals in the Clone Wars. That was a very non-Jedi thing to do, I think. But they accepted it so readily. It's sort of weird. I think it's just because they became involved with figuring it out. So if the Republic had come to them with an army and said, "Here we have this army, will you be Jedi?" generals, I think they would have been like,
no, that's not our thing.
But since, it sort of happened organically together.
And it threatened the Jedi Order.
Yeah, and which I'm sure was Palpatine's freaking plan the whole time, because man's a genius. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird to, you have little off things that happen within the Jedi that they're already changing anyway. I mean,
they're evolving, they're adopting new things, they're going against their own rules.
Yeah, they accepted Anakin.
Yeah,
that was one of the first things that they, and I mean, technically, Obi-Wan said he was going to train him
no matter
with
what.
or without the council's permission.
Okay.
But what would he have been if the council had said, no, we can't stop you from doing that, but he is not a Jedi? Does Obi-Wan's training him at that time make him a Jedi anyway? Or is he a Jedi trained Force user?
Well, I think you kind of have to say he would still be a Jedi because of the whole Ezra situation.
I think he's not a Jedi because of the whole Ezra situation. Dun, dun, dun.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time calling Ezra a Jedi because he's essentially a dishwasher that's being taught to be a chef from a line cook. Like, that dog don't hunt. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I can see that.
And that's nothing against Ezra. Like,
right.
There's no, like, slight on him at all. I just don't think he can call himself a Jedi. Even with, the whole going to the temple, finding his crystal, talking to Yoda. I mean, that gives him a little more clout. But he's still, Yoda wasn't like, yo, guys, I'm on Dagobah. Why don't you come over? I'm going to teach y'all how to be real Jedi. He was like, nah, I'm going to wait for Luke. So y'all do your thing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to chill here.
Well, I think it's absolutely not an insult to say that someone's not a Jedi.
No, I don't
I think
either,
that's what it comes down to. Like, it's not insulting to Ezra, and honestly, he could be very, I find Ezra to be super powerful for what he is.
Yeah, honestly,
I think partially some of that is because he's not being constrained by the Jedi Order.
Yes, exactly. That's what I thought you were going to say, and I was going to go ahead and finish that for you. I agree completely. He doesn't have that. He's not trapped in that box of rules and limitations.
Yeah.
He's like, he's in the open world RPG. He's not in the...
And he flirts with the dark side,
He flirts hard with the dark side. He gives the dark side little tender kisses.
Whoa, that's too much. Too much.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought they were going to do the whole Dark Ezra thing, and they may. I mean, things that happen in season 4 may break him and cause that whole dark side to come flooding out, and then who knows what happens to him. But that brings us to another strange thing, because we talk about who is and who isn't a Jedi, right? Well, if I don't think Ezra's a Jedi, then technically he doesn't have to die.
No.
For the whole last of the Jedi will you be to be accurate.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not like a, oh my god, let's freak out, the Jedi are ending kind of thing. I think that Ezra and Rey could be in the same kind of class.
Yeah, true.
They could be.
As far as how we see them, obviously Rey gets official, air quotes official here, training in The Last Jedi. We've seen that in the trailer. But through The Force Awakens, she is essentially even less trained than Ezra.
Oh yeah, but look at all the things that she's done.
Yeah, she exhibits extreme potential.
Yeah, and I think there's a
Anakin level potential.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
What are they saying?
I just don't know.
So yeah, I mean, on that, what we've kind of been talking about, that the whole hard and fast rules of being a Jedi, like, if that's something that you subscribe to, I don't think anyone past the Republic Jedi are actually Jedi to you.
Yeah, if you're super subscribed to like the Jedi Order,
right?
Then you can't.
Luke
I don't even think you can say
Jedi.
Luke.
No, there's no way.
I think he is, but
I think he is too. Yeah, don't at me, bro. But yeah, if that's your definition of Jedi, the Republic, like being taught as a youngling, becoming a Padawan,
being confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. That whole like,
if there's no Jedi Order to confirm you, then how can you become?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Yoda says so. So I mean,
yeah,
I would.
He's the last. I
would put that on my resume if Yoda said that I was a Jedi.
Yoda said I'm a Jedi, y'all. So.
Yeah.
So it is.
Then I drop the mic and walk away.
Just name dropping Yoda.
Yeah, for true. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Luke knows Yoda, so therefore Jedi. Boom. We solved it. Episode over.
So So if you're thinking that the Jedi Order, or just being a Jedi, what it means to be a Jedi can change, how do you think it changes, and what is kind of permissible for it to be like, okay, we're changing this?
Well, I mean, going back, like I said before, I think it probably started as tiny sects of Force users that all kind of got together. You know, they went on meetup.com and they're like, oh man, other people can move stuff with their mind. Let's hang out. And they decided on, you know, because creatures, sentient creatures, I guess, just since humans are the only thing I was about to say humans, but that sounded like lame in my head. But anyway, we want order. You know what I mean? Like anytime, even as little kids, you make up a game, what happens? You keep making rules, right?
Yeah.
Like someone does something, you're like, oh, I don't want you to do that. I'm going to make a rule so you can't do that. So it's the same sort of situation here. You had all these sects of Force users got together, and then they started making rules because that's what people do, you know? So, and eventually, over a long period of time, we ended up with the Jedi we know from the prequels. Well, then, you know, catastrophe happens. So you have to change.
The rules are now, I mean,
they're basically voided.
They're voided because you can't follow them. Like, yeah, it's impossible.
It's exactly like
it's legitimately impossible.
For the Jedi to go on, they have to change. There's no if, and, or but about it. And I think the same is probably going to be true in The Last Jedi. You know, Luke is all being poo-poo head and saying the Jedi have to end. But I think really what he probably tried to do is bring back the Jedi that were in the box, right? And it's just not going to...
He read the instructions.
Exactly. Instead of just doing it himself, he actually got the instructions out and tried to read it. I mean, come on. Everyone knows that's not how you make IKEA stuff. But anyway, yeah, I think he tried to put everything back into the box, and it wouldn't fit anymore. Like, the box is broken now. Like, if you want Jedi to go on, that's fine, and that's good. And that's actually, I mean, in the EU, technically we didn't really have the prequels yet when a lot of this stuff got written, so he didn't know what the old Jedi Order was like. But now, if he goes back and reads all that stuff, and he's like, oh, you can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, can't do that. He didn't really do that in the EU. He was just like, I don't know, let's find some people and make him use the Force. So if he tried to do, and I think we're going to find out he tried to put everything back in the box, and
it just didn't work.
Well, I mean, you're creating
imbalance.
Yeah.
You're creating that imbalance, which then causes the uprising of, you know, if there's no dark side to fight against, it will rise up if you are creating this robust light side.
Well, and that's an interesting point too, because all Luke knows of the Jedi is he knows, you know, they fought in the Clone Wars. He's heard about all the Jedi and the fighting. All he's really done as a Jedi is fight. What was he building his order to do? Fight? What were they going to fight?
Yeah.
And if they didn't have anything to fight, maybe that's why one of them ended up fighting themselves, because he was like, you trained me to do this and I've got nothing to take it out on. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Unless, like I said, maybe he tried to put them into an even older box where they just like sat around and thought about stuff. Like, we're really cool because we can do magical stuff.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Well, there's just so many, it just goes into this idea that there's so many different embodiments of the Force and people feeling it as well as using it and manipulating it. Because you have people who are able to be Force sensitive but not use it.
Right. Like Chirrut. Yeah.
You know, I like the way that you describe it sometimes, is that Chirrut doesn't use the Force. He allows the Force to use him.
Yeah, he's basically like a lightning rod. He sits there and he's like, all right, Force, do your stuff. And then he does his little mantra and the Force puts its little protective bubble around him and he does his thing. You know what I mean?
And then you also have Maz, who is saying, I know the ways of the Force. You know,
I think Maz can probably use it to some degree. I do.
I think she might be somewhere in between kind of Chirrut level and maybe, I don't know, some other level of actually like...
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, we know that Maz is old, so perhaps she belonged to a sect of Force, some other type of Force tradition that we don't even know about, you know?
Which I'm just excited to see other embodiments of the Force.
Yeah, exactly.
Other than the Jedi. Like, I'm not hating on Jedi, but to think that that's the only group of people that have ever used the Force.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just like religion, you know what I mean? There's not one religion. Sure, there's gigantic ones that most people subscribe to, but I mean, and yes, they have different beliefs, but if you really, really break it down, you, especially like with the monotheistic, you know, you probably all believe in the same God, guys. You know, you just call him something different, and that's sort of the same thing here. They're all using the same Force, or, you know, the Ashla, or whatever else you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you name it. it, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I mean, speaking of the Ashley, you have Zeb's people who have obviously some kind of force power. Like we know Zeb can't consciously use the force or even call on it like Chirrut does, but he can use his bow rifle and find a way through I don't know.
Yeah. I had forgotten about that. Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, there's like a lot of stuff in Rebels that... Yeah,
Rebels really does open the Pandora's box of the force.
Yeah, you have the Bendu, you have...
who also refers to the Ashlyn, the Bogan? I think it's Bogan is what he calls the dark side.
And you also have... I really liked that episode with the temple with Ahsoka and Kanan and Ezra, where she says, I can't remember if it's I'm no Jedi or I'm not a Jedi, something about opening it, like saying I shouldn't.
Right, yeah, I think...
And it's this weird respect for it because she no longer subscribes to it.
Right, and essentially what...
But yes, she's also
Ezra
watching a
saying,
holocron, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, see, that's a good question. What I was going to say is essentially, I think Ezra was saying, hey, do you and Kanan want to do this because you're the more strong ones? And she was like, nah, y'all should do it because I'm not really into that anymore type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the holocron you brought up, she was watching Anakin, and I mean, is that something... Did she quit. She quit the Jedi. She said she quit. She's no longer a Jedi. But, I mean, technically, I think she's more a Jedi than Kanan or Ezra.
Yeah.
Just because she was in it. I mean... We don't really know much about Kanan as a Jedi beforehand. He got into being a Padawan pretty late, so I think Ahsoka was a Padawan longer than Kanan. So technically, I think she's more of a Jedi than he is, as far as that training aspect goes. Just because you give it up, it's not like it goes away.
Right.
She
I mean,
still retains all that. Obviously, she still uses it. She's got the lightsaber. She uses the Force. She's as much of, or probably more of a Jedi than she ever was, just without the name Jedi. But yeah, like you said, is she using that holocron as Jedi teachings? And if so, does that further her into being a Jedi, even though she said she wasn't?
And then within the temple, Kanan being, affirmed as being a Jedi Knight. And I think partially some of that is, the Jedi Visions giving you some sort of thing that you need.
Yeah, it's giving him the confidence he needs because he feels like how can, basically...
He knows he's the line cook.
Exactly.
He absolutely knows he's the line cook trying to train the dishwasher to be a chef. He knows. I know, guys.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So, but that, I mean, they've said multiple times with Force Visions that, hard to see the future is, and they're not necessarily to be trusted and things like that. So,
plus, you see at the end of that, near the end of the episode, the Inquisitors actually doing it. So it's definite. I mean, opening the temple.
Yeah,
it's definitely not an ability thing for Ahsoka.
No, yeah, the temple isn't doing like
only
a perception
the true
check or something on you, and it's like, you're not a Jedi, you can't open me. No, it's just you have to be able to use the Force to flip it up.
Yeah.
The temple has no idea who's doing it. Well, I mean, technically that ground turns red and all that weird stuff when the Inquisitors do it. So
I mean, it knows.
I guess it knows, but yeah, it can't stop it from happening. I guess
right.
It's more the truth.
Yes.
The truth. The true.
So, quick spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, if you haven't read the recent Darth Vader Series 2 number 2, the one that just came out not too long ago, we're going to talk about something that happens in there. It's not really it's a light spoiler, but it doesn't really ruin the book for you or anything.
Yeah. So okay.
Pause for spoilage.
All right.
Okay, anyway, going on.
I found this so interesting because, Vader's like, okay, I need to take this lightsaber from a Jedi, and this is so hard now. I need to find a Jedi that is still out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's looking for these Jedi. What is it? The
Barasch, I think, is, I mean, I don't know. It's from paper. Who knows how it's actually pronounced? Yeah. It's Star Wars. But Barasch is what I was calling it in my head. And essentially what that means is it's a Jedi who's taken himself away from everything and isolated himself in everything, or from everything but the Force.
Yeah, he's like, I am a Jedi, but I'm not subscribing to...
Yeah, I'm just not involved with
I'm not
anymore.
In the Order.
He's like...
And they were saying it was before even Anakin.
Yeah, this person had gone away before Anakin had even come to the temple. So he's been on his Barasch for quite some time. Because at this point, Anakin/Vader's got to be, I don't know, we're looking at like 15 years, something like that. That this guy's been out by himself, levitating, being one with the Force. But he's still a Jedi. Like, hey guys, I still count.
I count.
I count. I'm just going peace. I like you guys, but not that much. you know? So that's kind of
taking my ball and going home.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so what's the difference between that and what Ahsoka did? Honestly, one says I'm still in, one says I'm not. Otherwise, they're like more or less the same thing, except the whole idea with the Barasch is that you go away and don't interact with people.
Right,
where Ahsoka maintained her identity and doing stuff and all that good stuff.
Right,
so.
And then versus Dooku.
Right, yeah, and Dooku just left as well, and he decided he was going to be a Sith, so that's a
so
real
there's the
different...
do something, do nothing, and do bad stuff.
Yeah, there you go. How to not be a Jedi. Boy, that's not true, because the Barasch guys are still Jedi. But yeah, so that's, and I mean, that brings up an interesting question, like, is that what Luke's doing?
Yeah,
in
I
The
think
Force
so.
Awakens?
I think so.
Like, does he read about this, you know, and he's like, oh, that's an interesting concept, and then does all his order things, it falls apart, and he's like, okay, this is what I got to do. Obviously, me being involved as a Jedi does not work anymore, so I'm going to go separate myself as a Jedi and chill for the rest of my life on this.
Yeah,
very
deep contemplation
island.
on, I mean, he's probably thinking, what's it mean to be a Jedi? That's
Yeah,
probably what
true.
he's thinking about.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's what he's probably
I know, we should
thinking
send
about.
this to him.
I know, we'll let him know.
Yeah, we'll at Luke Skywalker.
That works.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. We can probably just think it in the Force.
Yeah, and he'll know.
I just did it. Okay, he knows.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
He's like, bro, it's not out yet. I'm like, oh, shoot, sorry. Oh, man.
I agree, but you see this, you know, this guy levitating on his own with a holocron.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just opens up a whole can of worms of what you can do and still be
considered a Jedi.
Yeah. Or just also there's probably a billion different ways to be a Jedi.
Well, right.
Within the Jedi Order.
Exactly. It's not all the straight hierarchy youngling Padawan knight master sit on the council until you die. You know what I mean? Obviously you have the temple guards, you have Jocasta Nu being a librarian Jedi. I don't know, are the cooks there Jedi? Like, is my like
I want to do some Force cooking.
About
that would make like chopping up veggies pretty easy.
Yeah, like, I don't know, do they have outside people, or is everyone that does anything in the temple a Jedi of some kind? Like, they just... Everybody
has their own Jedi job.
Yeah, is there the Jedi sanitation engineer?
Maybe.
Who knows?
Sanitation?
Sanitation? But, yeah, that's, like, is a temple guard less of a Jedi than a Jedi master?
I don't think so.
Is Jocasta Nu less of a Jedi than a regular Jedi Knight, or vice versa? Even though maybe Jocasta's master level, is she less of a Jedi than a Jedi Knight that's going out and doing things versus sitting around and helping younglings look up stuff in the archives? I don't think so. I mean, a Jedi is a Jedi.
But I think it's completely okay to say, I'd be okay with either situation. Rey being a Jedi, a new kind of Jedi, like the third wave Jedi.
Word.
Or, I mean, third to us, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that we had what we consider the Jedi in the Republic. We have the Luke-style Jedi. And then I think Luke went backward to the Republic-style Jedi, and then that crashed on him. So then, yes, this, whatever happens now, would be the third tier installment of what it means to be a Jedi.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Or, I mean, honestly, I'm really okay with it actually being the last of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And this is a new thing. Something new.
So you're okay that the Jedi end?
I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm really okay with it because maybe it got to a point where it was so convoluted that it's almost unfixable. You know, maybe it had great intentions starting out, but between the way that it got convoluted in the Republic, the way it got convoluted with what Luke was trying to do.
You think it's something that just it has to be rebranded type thing? Like,
yeah, stop calling
in,
it this and then we'll...
Right, yeah, you see that in... what do I want to say? There's a word, but it's going away. Anyway, merchandise, I guess. Like, something becomes unpopular, they rebrand it and put it back out, and all of a sudden people want it.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing. You just called it something different and changed your marketing.
And changed some of your rules.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. With
some of your classifications, some of your requirements.
With the Jedi, yeah, exactly. But do you think it's too past the point where, as long as it's called Jedi, there's too much of a head space there?
Possibly.
You have to call it something different for people to get, like, a fresh take.
I think it's very possible.
Yeah,
but
I
then
don't
again,
think it's going to happen.
But then again, think about how everyone doesn't even think the Jedi were real at this point in time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Rey's like, that was real.
Yeah, it's real, all of it.
Then,
you know?
I mean, what would that do now? Like, imagine, like, the Harry Potter universe is real, and someone's just like, yo, guess what? Magic, it's real.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you flip out? Be like, you lie.
That's Harry Potter, right?
Oh, jeez. That's kind of the whole situation that she's in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's kind of like Harry Potter figuring out that, hey, guess what? All that neat stuff that you read about in books, it's real, and you're one of them.
Yeah.
But
you're a space wizard.
Yeah. You're
Ray.
a wizard, Ray. I don't think they'll ever actually end the Jedi. The Jedi and Star Wars are too synonymous. It would be neat story-wise if they would do it. I just don't think they can sever that tie.
No. You hold a lightsaber, you're a Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much.
And it's not red.
Yeah. So by logic, Finn's a Jedi, everyone.
Yeah.
And Han Solo too, I guess.
Yeah. Ta-da!
And General Grievous. That was the sound of Grievous's arm spinning, just in case you couldn't understand that. So yeah.
So what do you think, Brian? Do you think will the Jedi end, or have they already?
They have.
You think they've already ended
in the way they used to be, but they will not end entirely. They will turn into something different. Like we said about the bringing about that third tier of what it means to be a Jedi. Like what it means to be a Jedi changes, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think is.
Do you think that the same thing could be said for Sith? No?
I think the Sith are done.
Because they and that's one of their downfalls is that they are so strict, you think?
That's the only thing that kept them going. Like, Bane basically saved this. The Sith would have annihilated themselves, I think, had he not been like, let's keep this to, it's basically like two people always trying to one up, and that's how we're gonna, but yeah, I think the Sith are definitely gone.
But do you think that Kylo and Snoke then, because they're not subscribing to that, they are more formidable?
In a way, yes, because of numbers. We still don't know what the Knights of Ren are.
I know,
like, are they Force users or no? Is Kylo the leader because he's the Force user, and all the other ones are like in awe of his greatness or whatever? I don't know. But that'll be interesting to see. It would be cool if we got back to that group of Force users versus group of Force users instead of that 1 or 2 versus 1 or 2 type. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I like the small groups, but that was one of the best things about the prequels, especially that big arena battle. You know what I mean? That was fun. It would be nice to get back to that.
But I think that's all we have time for.
Okay.
So that's what we think about.
That's what we think about Jedi.
Gotta stick your lip out.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this before. Jedi. But anyway, as per usual, at hyperspace_pod on Twitter, or
email us. hyperspacepodblast@gmail.com. If you like us, drop some stars in the iTunes store for a review.
Drop some stars.
That
sounds cool.
Or write a review or whatever. We like hearing from you guys. We also are now available to be reviewed on Podknife.
Yeah, Podknife.
If you're not an iTunes user.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And if there's something that you want to talk to us about on the show, let us know.
Yeah, all that good stuff. Engage with us. We like people.
Yay!
We're not that weird.
That's
Okay, anyway, we're done. Bye!
Bye, guys.